Good day everyone. So today we will discuss genetically modified organisms or GMOs. These are plants, animals, or microorganisms whose DNA has been changed using modern biotechnology to improve their traits. Scientists modify genes to make crops grow faster, resist pests, survive harsh weather, or have better nutritional value. And for our objectives, so at the end of the presentation, the audience will be able to define GMOs and explain their purpose in food production and agriculture, explain the science behind GMOs including how genetic engineering works, identify examples of GMO crops such as BT corn and golden rice and their benefits, discuss possible health and environmental concerns including toxicity, allergenicity, and biodiversity issues. And lastly, evaluate the issues and debates about GMOs to form an informed opinion. So for our first reporter, Miss Aubrey May and Hermosa.
For the introductions of the lesson 8, yung genetically modified organisms or yung GMOs. So, it's just stated there that when we say GMOs, these are the organisms na hindi lang basta tumutubo naturally. They were intentionally modified by the scientists. Meaning to say, they go into the DNA itself and change something specific para makuha yung traits na gusto nila. So, hindi lang siya natural mutations na just let the nature grow kung ano yung tinanim. So, this is more controlled and very planned. For example, if the scientist wants a plant to survive drought, they look for a gene that controls drought resistance and insert it. So, it's very strategic kasi makikita mo talaga kung ano yung goal and kung ano yung gusto nilang maging outcome. So, relatable example here in our country is yung sa rice farmers during El Nino. Kasi diba, kapag sobrang init and kulang sa tubig, bumababa yung harvest. So, if the rice is genetically modified to tolerate drought, mas stable yung food supply. That's why GMOs are connected to food security. And when it comes to this medicine, so this is not just about the plants So some bacteria are genetically modified para mag-produce ng insulin for diabetic patient. So instead of extracting it in the old way, we'll let the microorganisms to produce it efficiently. But of course, hindi naman because they undergo that process is nagiging perfect na yung kinakalabasan, Kasi syempre, magkakaroon pa rin ng mga concerns. So, ilan dito, yung mga tao is, they still worry about their long-term health effects. Kasi, who wouldn't worry when they are talking about health? Diba? Kapag health na yung naka-risk. So, mahirap din po yun, kailangan natin isipin kung ano po talaga yung makakatulong sa atin at hindi makakapagpahamak sa atin. That's why, ang sunod na concern is yung environmental balance. Kasi, what if nga naman maapektuhan yung ibang insects or yung biodiversity natin? So, mas magiging complicated pa yung situation. And, sunod is yung economic inequality. Kasi yung GM seeds, it can be patented and expensive. So, sino makaka-afford? Diba? Siyempre yung mga mayayaman lang or yung may mga kaya. Then, how about yung mga nasa baba, yung mga mahihirap lang? So, the only point here is that the GMOs are powerful tools. They can solve problems, but they also require regulation, ethics, and as well as responsibilities. Now, for the early development of biotechnology, so before po kasi we even had modern labs, biotechnology already existed. Siguro hindi lang natin tinatawag na biotechnology kaya hindi natin kilala. Kasi based on the book and nakalagay din po dyan that way back 10,000 before Christ, farmers were already practicing selective breeding. Ito po yung, kunwari, if may cow na mas malakas or may plant na mas matamis yung fruit, yun yung pinipili nila para paramihin. And over time, that changes the traits of the population. So, it is more like the slow version ng genetic improvement kasi hindi nila alam yung about sa DNA pero they observe the patterns. And nandyan din po yun yung about sa Sumerians that uses fermentation. So, ito naman is when the yeast converts sugar into alcohol, that's already a biological process used for the human benefits. So technically, that's called biotechnology because it uses living organisms to produce something useful. So, after naman nun is dun na dumating si Dr. Gregor Mendel. So he is a scientist who goes through his pea plant experiments. So he is the one who discovered that traits are inherited in the predictable pattern. So like yung dominant and recessive traits. Ito yung parang sa gene kung paano na-inherit ng offspring yung traits na meron sa parent nila. So before pa may discover ang DNA, may foundation na. So the scientists already understood that inheritance follows rules. So this became the backbone of the modern genetics. Dito naman sa modern biotechnology and DNA discovery, so this is the real turning point when that happens when the scientists discover the structure of the DNA. So this is when they understood the double helix. Now they finally knew how genetic information is stored and passed on. So from that moment, biotechnology became more precise. So hindi na lang sila nag-goes under their guesswork na okay, select the best and hope for the best. Kasi the scientists now are directly edit or transfer genes. So, kaya tayo may tinatawag na yung word na cloning, genome editing, embryo transfer, and genome informatics. So, these are the techniques that allow detailed control. Here, example here in the Philippines, again, is yung sa golden rice. So, diba, alam naman natin that the rice is enhanced with the vitamin A to help address the vitamin A deficiency. And it goes among the children. So, instead of giving supplements lang, the nutrients is built into the food itself. And when it comes to the livestock, genetic techniques can improve disease resistance or growth efficiency, and that helps farmers to increase productivity without necessarily expanding the land use. So, dito sa modern biotech, it is basically science becoming more exact. Kasi diba, from observation that goes to the manipulations, and now is yung sa precision. And dito naman sa genetic engineering and the GMOs, kasi diba the genetic engineering is the specific method used to create GMO. So it involves the adding, the removing, or the altering genes from inside the genome. So if a gene from one organism is inserted into another, that organism becomes transgenic. Meaning to say, it carries foreign genetic material, and it can also be called living modified organisms or LMO. So, a very common example here nakalagay dyan is yung sa BT corn. So the gene comes from the Bacillus thuringiensis. So this bacterium naturally produces a protein that is toxic to a certain insects. So when the scientists insert this gene into the corn, the plant itself can resist insect pests. So instead of spraying excessive chemical pesticides, the protection is already built into the plant. This can reduce crop loss and potentially lessen the chemical use. So if we look at the bigger picture, the GMOs didn't just suddenly appear. They are the result of the long-term scientific journey. Kasi diba, from ancient selective breeding, tapos dumating si Mendel's inheritance and principles, tapos nagkaroon ng DNA discovery, tapos yun ngayong yun sa modern gene editing. So it's like a guided evolution. Lang siya, more like focuses on the nature plus the scientific intervention. And that all for the introductions of the lesson 8. Thank you po.
So, first nga po ay i-explain ko po kung paano po gumagana ang genetic engineering. So, kung ano yung traits na dinedevelop sa GMO crops at bakit sila significant sa modern agriculture. So, first po is what are GMO? So, GMO means genetically modified organism or DNA as altered using biotechnology created to improve specific traits common in crops like corn, soybeans, and cotton. So, GMO nga, sa DNA nga po ay sinasadyang baguhin gamit po yung mga modern biotechnology. So, dahil ang DNA po ang naglalaman ng genetic instructions kapag may binabago dito or may pinapalitan. May specific trait na naaapektuhan o ma-improve katulad po ng pagbabago or paganda or kung nai-improve po ba yung mga DNA or genetic instructions na ginagawa. So, ito po ay katulad ng traditional breeding na umaabot ng maraming taon para lang makuha ang desired trait. Sa genetic engineering po, mas direct at precise ang proseso dahil specific gene ang tinatarget at ini-insert sa organism. So, halimbawa nga po, may tinatawag po tayong BT corn. So, ang BT corn po ay nilalagyan ng gene mula sa isang bacteria na tinatawag pong Bacillus thuringiensis. Yung gene po na ito ay nagagawa siya sa corn ng protein na toxic sa certain insect tulad po ng mga caterpillars. So, kapag kinain po ng pest na yan, ang corn, mamamatay po yung insect na yan. Pero po, safe po ito sa animals and sa people. So, and example pa nga po dito is herbicide-tolerant soybeans. So, ang soybeans na ito po ay genetically modified para makasurvive sa herbicide. Ibig sabihin po, pwede mag-spray ang farmer ng weed killer para patayin ang weed, pero hindi masasaktan ang mismong soybean plant. So, sa madaling salita po, ang GMO ay ginagawa para ma-improve ang crop performance, maprotektahan laban sa pests, at maging mas efficient sa mga farmer. Next po is understanding genetic material. DNA carries genetic instructions, genes determine traits, and genome complete set of genes. So, first nga po is sa DNA. Ang DNA nga po ay nagdadala ng genetic instructions ng isang organism. Para itong blueprint or instruction manual ng katawan ng organism. Lahat ng physical at biological characteristic natin ay nakabase sa impormasyon na lalabas sa DNA. So, pangalawa nga po is sa genes. Sa genes ay specific segment siya ng DNA na responsible sa pag-determine ng traits. So, halimbawa po, ang genes po ang nagdidikta kung gaano kabilis ang paglaki ng halaman or kung resistant ba ito sa mga sakit. O kapag sinabi man nating genome, ito ang complete set ng genes sa isang organism. So, ibig sabihin po, lahat ng genetic information na meron ng isang organism ay bahagi ng kanyang genome. So, halimbawa po, kung ang isang halaman ay may gene para maging resistant sa peste, pwedeng pag-aralan ng mga scientists ang gene na iyon at gamitin ito para ma-improve yung ibang crops. So, sa madaling salita po, DNA ang instruction manual, genes ang specific instructions, at genome po ang buong collection ng instruction ng isang organism. How genetic engineering works po? First po is a DNA extraction. So, DNA extraction po is para itong pagkuha ng original recipe or blueprint ng isang organism o kinukuha ng scientist yung DNA ng organism para malaman kung anong instruction ang kailangan nila baguhin. So, next naman po is sa gene cloning. So, parang paggawa siya ng maraming copies ng key ingredient para may sapat na supply bago simulan ang bagong recipe. So parang kahit mawala yung isa is may sisimulan silang bagong recipe. So dito kinokopy ang mga gene para ready sa next step. Next po is sa gene design. So dito inaayos o dinidesign yung ingredient para siguraduhin gumagana ang bagong recipe, or pwedeng baguhin yung sequence ng gene para mas effective sa target na organism. So, next pa is gene insertion or transformations. So, parang paglagay siya ng bagong ingredient sa original recipe or blueprint, tapos ang gene na yun ay ini-insert sa DNA ng plant para magkaroon ng bagong trait, tulad ng pest resistant or herbicide tolerance. Next po is sa cross-breeding. So, parang quality check at mass production. So, pinapalaki ang bagong organism at sinecheck kung stable ang trait. Tapos, binibreed para mamana ng susunod na generation. So, there's two main GMO traits. So, first is a pest resistant. So, pest resistant po is ito yung trait na nagpo-protect sa crops laban sa insect or mga pests. Halimbawa po sa beauty corn. May gene mula sa bacteria or Bacillus thuringiensis na gumagawa ng protein sa toxic sa certain insect tulad nga po ng caterpillars. So, kapag kinain ng pest or yung caterpillars na yun yung plant, mamamatay siya. Pero safe sa mga tao or sa mga animals. Dahil dito nga po, is nababawasan ang paggamit ng chemical insecticide at mas efficient sa pest control. Next naman po is herbicide tolerance. So, herbicide tolerance is ito naman ay may trait na nagpapahintulot ng crops na mabubuhay kahit mag-spray pa ng herbicide. So, kahit mag-spray ng herbicide tolerance, hindi mamamatay yung plant na nakatanim. So, halimbawa nga, herbicide tolerant soybeans, pwede mag-spray ng weed killer para patayin ng weeds nang hindi nasasaktan ang plant mismo. So, ang goal nito is mas mapadali ang weed management at maging mas efficient ang mga farmers. So, next po is a pest-resistant crops or BT crops. So, contains gene from Bacillus thuringiensis, produce protein toxic to specific insect, reduces needed for chemical insecticides. So, example nga dito is BT maize at BT cotton. So, para mas madali nating maintindihan. So, ang BT crop ay parang plant na may sariling pest shield. Ang BT crop ay may gene mula sa bacteria na Bacillus thuringiensis or BT. So, ang gene na ito ay gumagawa siya ng special protein na parang invisible armor para sa mga plants. So, kapag kinain ng pest ang protein, katulad ng sinabi ko nga, is pag kinain ng pest yung protein na yun sa toxin, sumisira yun sa katawan or digestive system ng isang insect, kaya siya namamatay. So, ang magiging resulta nun, mapaprotektahan yung plant at mas hindi na kailangan ng mga chemical insecticides. So, sa madaling sabi nga po, ang BT crops ay parang self-protecting plants na kayang laban ng pests, kaya mas efficient at eco-friendly ang farming. So, next po is benefits of GMO. Better pest control. So, dahil sa mga pest-resistant traits, tulad ng BT corns, mas napoprotektahan ang crops laban sa insect, kaya mas mataas ang chances ng magandang yield. So, easier weed management. So, sa herbicide-tolerant crops, mas madali ang pag-control ng weeds tulad dahil pwedeng mag-spray ng herbicide nang hindi nasasaktan o hindi nasisira yung crops. So, reduce chemical use. So, mas kaunti lang yung kailangan ng pesticide at herbicide, kaya mas eco-friendly at mas safe sa environment. Kasi wala masyadong chemical na ginagamit para sa mga plant. And increase crop productivity. So, dahil protektable daw nga yung crops sa pests at sa mga weeds, tumataas ang production at mas marami na ang napoproduce na food. And next is efficient farming. So, sa paggamit ng GMO, mas mabilis at mas organized ang farming process. Mas nababawasan ang labor at cost. So, sa madaling sabi nga, ang GMO ay nakakatulong para maprotektahan ang crops, mapataas ang production at gawing mas efficient at environment-friendly ang pagwa-farm ng mga farmer. Yun lang po. Thank you.
Let's tackle about the toxicity of GMOs or the genetically modified organisms. Meron pong tatlong pag-aaral patungkol dito. Ang una reported harmful consequences. So a few decades ago, merong anti-GMO group called the Institute for Responsible Technology, or the IRT, and they reported that mice fed with genetically modified potatoes become sick after 10 days. So yung mga daga daw na pinakain ng GMO na patatas is nagkaroon ng sakit after 10 days. So sinasabi nila na yung mga daga daw ay nagkaroon ng damage sa mga organs nila, specifically the reproductive organs ng mga daga. And sabi nila, the problem was caused by the genetic modification process itself. And they claim also that the GMOs may be toxic. So, paano nila nasabi na yung GMOs were toxic? Dahil the mice showed organ problems after eating GMO potatoes, and they believe that the gene insertion process may have accidentally changed other parts of the plants of the DNA, or the DNA of the plants. They suspected also that the genetic engineering might create harmful substances inside the plant. So, they conclude na yung harm was not just about the potato type itself, but from the method of genetic modification. So, sa unang pag-aaral nito is merong harmful effect or may toxic effect itong genetically modified organisms, which is yung potatoes sa mga daga. The second study, regarding the National Institute of Toxicological Research study, merong team sa Seoul, Korea, and they compared the non-GMO and GMO potatoes to determine the possible negative effects on human consumers. So, they study about it if yung first claim or yung unang pag-aaral ba is totoo. Kung talaga bang merong toxic effect or talaga may harmful effect yung GMO na potatoes. So, in this study, pinakain nila yung isang group ng mga daga ng GMO potatoes. Yung pangalawa naman, or yung the other group, ay pinakain ng non-GMO potatoes. In-observe nila parehas, both female and male. And also, in-examine din nila yung mga organs nung daga na yun under microscope. That's called histological examination. They carefully check yung liver, yung kidneys, spleen, and other parts of the reproductive organs ng mga daga. And ano yung nakita nila? Nakita nila na walang difference between mice that ate GMO potatoes and mice that ate non-GMO potatoes. And the organs look normal in both groups. And paano nila nasabi or paano nila nalaman na wala talagang toxicity or harmful effects? Kasi the inserted gene may not have produced harmful substances. The modification did not damage other important genes. And also, the GMO potato was biologically similar to the non-GMO potato, except for the added trait. So, this suggests that genetic modification itself does not automatically cause harm or toxicity. So, in this second study, wala pong toxicity or harmful effects tong GMOs sa mga daga. And that's based sa kanilang study. So, for the third study regarding GMO tomato and sweet pepper study, dito naman, they divide mice into 4 groups. The first, mice fed with GMO tomato. The second one, mice fed with GMO sweet pepper. The third one, they fed the mice with non-GMO tomato. And the fourth one, they fed the mice with non-GMO sweet pepper. At itong mga dagang to, they were fed extremely high amounts, about 7,000 times more than normal human daily intake. Imagine kung gaano yun karami. And sa loob yun ng 30 days. And after that experimentation, yung mga scientist ay in-examine nila yung kidney, heart, liver, spleen, stomach, and other reproductive organs. And ano yung nakita nila? Makita nila na no organ damage, no microscopic abnormalities, no health problems, no difference between GMO and non-GMO groups. So, at that very high amount of intake of those GMO and non-GMO, walang pagbabago, walang differences, and the animals stayed healthy. So, why was there still no toxicity, even at very high doses? So, they concluded that if something is toxic, it usually shows damage when consumed in very large amount. But here, no damage appeared. So, their study concluded na wala naman talagang toxicity or harmful effects ang genetically modified organisms na ito. In overall explanation, some people can claim that GMOs are toxic because mice appear to develop organ problems. But when other scientists repeated careful experiments, they found no organ damage, no microscopic changes, and no difference between GMO and non-GMO fed animals. So, controlled studies show that approved GMOs do not cause toxicity in animal feeding trials. So, that's all. Thank you.
Issues and debates on the use of GMOs. So first po ay ang benefits of GMOs. Marami pong benefits ang GMOs lalo na sa agriculture. Una, may mga crops na pest resistant kaya hindi na masyadong kailangan ng maraming chemical pesticides. So dahil dito, nababawasan ang gastos ng farmers at mas kaunti ang exposure sa harmful chemicals. Pangalawa, may mga GMO crops na high yield. Meaning, mas marami ang ani kahit maliit ang lupa. Malaking tulong din po ito sa food security, lalo na sa mga bansang kulang sa pagkain o mabilis dumami ang population. Sa medicine naman po, isa sa pinaka-importanting example ay ang production ng insulin. Dati, galing ito sa animals, pero ngayon, gamit ang genetically modified bacteria na safe at mas efficient na ang production. So, ayon naman po sa maraming scientific studies, ang mga approved GMOs na nasa mass market ay generally safe kainin. So, maraming research ang ginawa bago ito payagan ibenta. Kabilang na dito ang testing sa toxicity, allergenicity, at nutritional value. Hanggang ngayon po, wala pang strong scientific evidence na nagpapakita na ang approved GMOs ay mas harmful kaysa sa non-GMO foods. Pero kahit ganun po, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang monitoring at research. May mga regulatory agencies sa iba't ibang bansa na nagche-check regularly para siguraduhin na safe pa rin ang mga GMO products sa market. Environmental concerns. So kahit may benefits, may mga environmental concerns din po tungkol sa GMOs. Isa po dito ang possibility na mabawasan ang biodiversity. Kapag iisang klase lang ng crop ang tinatanim sa malalaking area, maaaring maapektuhan ang variety ng plants at animals sa paligid. May risk din po ng crossbreeding kung saan maaaring maglaho ang genes ng GMO plants at wild plants. So kapag nangyayari po ito, pwede magkaroon ng unintended effects sa ecosystem. Isa pang concern ay ang development ng herbicide-resistant weeds. Kapag nasanay ang weeds sa herbicide na ginagamit sa GMO crops, pwedeng maging mas matibay sila at mas mahirap kontrolin sa future. Sa ethical and social issues naman, may debate kung tama ba na baguhin ang genetic makeup ng living organisms. So para sa iba, parang playing God daw ito or paglabag sa natural process. May concerns din tungkol sa naturalness ng pagkain. May mga consumers na mas gusto ang organic o non-GMO products dahil mas natural daw po ito. Dagdag po, iba-iba ang laws ng bawat bansa tungkol sa GMOs. May mga bansa na very strict at may labeling requirements, habang ang iba naman ay mas open sa paggamit ng GMOs. So sa kabuuan po, ang GMOs ay isang complex issue. May malinaw na benefits sa agriculture at medicine, Pero may environmental, ethical at social concerns din na kailangan pag-isipan ng mabuti. Kaya mahalaga po ang continuous research, regulation at informed decision-making ng government at consumers. Thank you.
So, for our summary po, genetically modified organisms or yung GMOs are the organisms whose DNA is changed using genetic engineering to improve traits like pest resistance and herbicide tolerance. So, ibig sabihin po nito, binabago ng scientists ang genes para mas mapaganda ang katangian ng mga halaman o organisms. Halimbawa nga po nito is yung mga crops na may gene mula sa Bacillus thuringiensis or yung BT na nabanggit na din po ng isang reporter kanina na sila po yung tumutulong para protektahan ang plants laban sa mga harmful insects. So, GMOs po help increase crop production, reduce pesticide use, and improve food security. Generally, safe silang kainin according to the studies, pero may mga concerns pa rin tungkol sa environmental effects and ethical issues. GMOs plays an important role in our modern agriculture and biotechnology. They offer solutions to food security and farming challenges by improving crop quality and yield, while yung scientific research naman po is supports their safety, environmental, and ethical issues that should be carefully considered. Therefore, informed decision-making, proper regulation, and continuous research are necessary para mabalance pa din po yung mga benefits and risks of the GMOs or yung genetically modified organisms. So, yun lang po. Thank you.
So, yan. So, dahil natapos na ang ating lesson 8, which is the genetically modified organisms, so today we will talk about nanotechnology. So, it is a field of science that studies and manipulates matter at a very tiny scale called the nanometer level. So, even though it is small, nanotechnology has a big impact in our daily lives. So, by the end of this lesson, we will be able to explain what nanotechnology is, its uses, benefits, and possible risks in our society.
So, ano nga ba ang nanotechnology? Nanotechnology is a modern and advanced field of science and engineering that focuses on studying and manipulating matter at a very small scale, called the nanoscale, which ranges from 1 to 10 nanometers. To give you an idea kung gaano kaliit ito, ang isang nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter, meaning sobrang liit na at hindi na ito makikita by naked eye and even by ordinary microscopes. At this nanoscale, materials behave very differently compared to their normal or larger size. Nagkakaroon sila ng unique physical, chemical, and biological properties. For example, some materials can become stronger, more chemically reactive, or better at conducting electricity and heat. So these changes happen because the structure and behavior of atoms and molecules are different at the nanoscale. So dahil dito, ang nanotechnology is naging very useful sa maraming fields. For example, sa medicine, specifically targeted drug delivery. Instead na buong katawan ang maapektuhan ng gamot, nanotechnology helps deliver the medicine directly to the affected cell like cancer cells. Because of that, mas effective ang treatment and mas kaunti ang side effect. So, another example naman is in electronics, where nanotechnology helps create smaller but more powerful gadgets like smartphones and laptops. So, overall, nanotechnology is considered transformative kasi it allows us to improve existing technology and create new innovation that can really help society. So, Bakit nga ba importante ang nanotechnology? Based sa readings, ang nanotechnology focuses on understanding materials at nanoscale around 1 to 2 nanometers. At this size, materials unique biologically, physically, and chemical properties na hindi natin nakikita sa larger version nila. Katulad nga lang sinabi ko kanina. So, example, may mga nanomaterials na mas stronger compared sa normal size nila. May iba naman na mas efficient mag-transfer ng heat or electricity. Mayroon ding nanoparticles na nag-iiba ang color or nagiging mas chemically reactive kapag lumiliit ang size nila. So, this happens because at nanoscale. Quantum effects dominate. So, meaning iba na ang behavior ng atoms and particles compared sa mas malaking scale. Another reason then is dahil mas mataas ang surface area to volume ratio ng nanoparticles. So, since mas maraming surface ang exposed, mas nagiging reactive sila. Interesting din kasi kahit sa nature may nanotechnology na. For example, ang hemoglobin na nag-transport ng oxygen sa blood is around 5.5 nanometers lang ang size. Ang DNA naman is about 2 nanometers in diameter. So, ibig sabihin, maraming biological process sa katawan natin ang nangyayari talaga at nanoscale. So, in short, nanotechnology is important kasi it helps us understand how materials behave at super small sizes, and ginagamit natin yung knowledge na yun para makagawa ng better technology sa medicine, electronics, energy, and other fields.
Nanotechnology in medicine. First is has the potential to transform the medical field, so malaki yung potential nito na totally baguhin ang healthcare system. Mas nagiging advanced at high-tech paraan ng paggamot sa mga sakit. Second, enables more precise and effective treatments. So dahil dito sobrang liit na nanoparticles na kaya nilang targetin mismo ang affected cells. Mas precise, mas effective at hindi sayang ang gamot. And third is improves disease diagnosis, treatment, and prevention. So, mas napapaganda ang pagdadiagnose ng sakit, mas effective ang treatment, at mas may chance na ma-prevent agad ang disease bago pa itong lumala. And next is drug delivery system. Delivers drug directly to disease cells. Instead na kumalat sa buong katawan ang gamot, dinadala siya diretso sa may sakit na cells. Mas focus ang action. So, second naman is uses nanoparticles or liposomes, dendrimers. So, gumagamit ng tiny carriers tulad ng liposomes at dendrimers para encapsulate ang gamot at ihatid ito safely sa target area. And third is reduce side effects. So, dahil target ng delivery, mas kaunti ang nagdadamay na health cells kaya nababawasan ang side effects. Last is provide control and accurate dosage. Kaya ang controlling kung gaano karaming gamot ang ilabas at kung kailan ito ilalabas, mas accurate ang dosage. Next is diagnostic techniques. Enables early detection of a cancer and infection. So, nakakatulong ito para ma-detect ang cancer or infection sa early stage pa lang, kahit wala pang obvious symptoms. And second is uses nanosensors to detect biomarkers. So, may mga tiny sensor na nakakakita ng biomarkers, mga sign ng disease sa dugo o cells. And third is can identify disease at very low concentration. So, kahit sobrang liit lang ng amount ng virus sa abnormal cells, kaya nitong ma-detect. And last is provide clearer and more accurate image. Mas malino at detailed ang medical image, kaya mas accurate ang diagnosis. And next is cancer treatments or nanomedicine. Gold nanoparticles target and destroy cancer cells. So, may gold nanoparticles na kayang tumarget sa cancer cells at tulungan strain ang mga ito. And second is minimize damage to healthy tissue. So, dahil target ang treatment, mas konti ang damage sa health cells kumpara sa chemotherapy. And last is less invasive than traditional cancer treatment. So, mas hindi ito masakit at mas hindi invasive compared sa surgery or traditional chemo. And next is regenerative medicine. So, helps repair damaged tissue and organs. So, nakakatulong sa pag-repair ng nasirang tissue like skin, muscles, or even organs. And second, uses nanomaterials to support stem cells growth. So, ang nanomaterials na nagsisilbing support structures para mas mag-grow at ma-develop ang stem cells. Ang next naman is enhance tissue regeneration. Pinapabilis at pinapaganda ang regeneration o paghilom ng tissues. And next is antimicrobial and antiviral agents. So first is silver nanoparticles fight for bacteria. Ang silver nanoparticles is may ability na pumatay or pumigil sa pagdami ng bacteria. And second is used as coating for medical devices. So ginagamit silang coating sa catheters, implants, at iba pang medical devices para maiwasan ang infection. And third is helps reduce infections. So dahil antibacterial sila, mababawasan ang risk ng hospital-acquired infection. And last is potential use against viruses, e.g. HIV, SARS, COVID, and 2. May studies na pwedeng gamitin ang nanoparticles laban sa viruses tulad ng HIV at COVID-19 virus. So, last naman is imaging and diagnostic. So, enhanced MRI image contrast. So, pinapawala nito ang contrast ng MRI image para mas makita ang abnormal tissue. And produce clearer and more detailed image. Mas detailed ang makakitang structure sa loob ng katawan. And allows real-time tracking of biological process. So, pwede ma-monitor in real time kung paano gumalaw ang cells or paano magre-respond ang katawan sa treatment. Yun lang po. Next po.
So now let's proceed to letter B. Letter B is electronics and computing. So nanotechnology helps create smaller, faster, and more efficient electronic devices. So think about how our phones keep getting thinner, diba? Sa panahon ngayon, maninipis na yung mga gadgets, unlike noon. Pero now, thinner but more powerful. And that's because scientists are making parts smaller at the nanoscale. So yung mga devices natin nagiging faster na without getting bulky. Next is nanomaterials improve performance of memory devices, transistors, and capacitors. So, parang upgrade lang siya sa utak ng mga gadgets natin. So, di ba yung parang utak sa mga gadgets natin is yung processor or yung CPU. So, mas madali na mag-process ng information at mas smooth na rin siya gamitin. Next is silicon nanowires and carbon nanotubes are used for next-generation transistors. So, these tiny materials act like superhighways for electricity, kaya mas mabilis na yung data flow ng ating inside computers. And last is nanotechnology increases memory storage capacity and speed. Kaya ngayon, kaya na nung mga maliliit na USB or phone yung mga libo-libo nating pictures or videos kahit gaano pa kalaki yung MB nun. So for example nito ay yung magnetic nanoparticles improve MRAM storage density. So next, we're going to proceed to letter C, which is the energy efficiency. So nanoparticles are used in solar cells, batteries, and fuel cells. They improve solar cells by enhancing light absorption and reducing energy loss. So mas maraming sunlight yung nakakonvert nito into electricity. So mas tipid na at mas eco-friendly na. Next is quantum dots and nanocoatings help improve efficiency. So para silang mga assistants na tumutulong para walang masayang na energy. Next is nanomaterials increase battery energy density and charging speed. So kaya mas tumatagal na yung battery ng mga phone natin at mas mabilis na itong mag-charge. Pero in my experience, pag iPhone yung gamit nyo, pag the longer you use it or pag ginamit mo siya na naka-charge, mas bumabagal na yung battery niya. Mas mabilis na pala siyang maubusan ng battery and minsan matagal din siya mag-charge. And next is helps in hydrogen storage for cleaner energy. So nakakatulong ito sa future ng clean energy. So para mabawasan yung ating pollution. Next is letter D, which is the material science. So nanocomposites make materials stronger and more durable. So para siyang pinagalo-halo na maliliit na materials. Pero yung mga materials na yun yung powerful ingredient para mas tumibay yung isang gadget or yung isang material. Next is carbon nanotubes improve strength and flexibility. So mas matibay pero hindi brittle. Parang flexible pero strong or matibay na plastic yung gamit. Next is nanomaterials are lightweight but strong. So importante siya sa mga airplanes tsaka sa mga sasakyan natin kasi mas magaan, it means mas matipid sa fuel. Next is nanocoatings repel water, dirt, and bacteria. So para siyang ginagamit na invisible shield sa surface ng mga bagay or ng mga sasakyan ganyan sa mga dumi or germs. Last is use in textiles, glass, and medical devices. So kaya 'di ba may mga damit na hindi basta-basta nababasa, yung mga water resistant tsaka yung mga waterproof ganon. And may mga medical tools na mas hygienic. So for letter E, consumer products, nanoparticles in sunscreens give better UV protection. So pansin nyo, di ba? Pag bumibili tayo ng mga sunscreen, mas gusto nating bilhin yung hindi visible or yung parang manipis lang, pero protected yung skin natin kahit hindi makapal yung sunscreen. Next is use in anti-aging skincare for better absorption. So, ginagamit siya sa anti-aging skincare kaya mas na-absorb ang ingredients sa skin natin. So, kaya mas effective na siya. Next, last is it creates longer lasting cosmetics. So, sa ngayon, di ba, meron ng mga setting spray and pag ini-spray mo siya, nagtatagal na yung makeup mo ng maghapon. Kahit pa magpawis pa, kahit mabasa pa yung mukha mo. So next is letter F, which is the food and agriculture. Nano-encapsulation improves nutrient delivery. Nanopesticides and nanofertilizers increase crop efficiency. So yan, mas lumalago na yung mga palayan kahit mas kaunti na lang yung chemicals na ginagamit. So, tulad namin na meron kaming palayan. So, experience namin na mas lumago naman yung palaya namin nung konti na lang yung mga chemicals na ginagamit namin. Next is it reduces environmental impact and it improves food shelf life. And lastly, is environmental remediation. So, nanomaterials clean pollutants in air, soil, and water. So, para silang tiny cleaners na sumisipsip ng toxins. Next is faster and more effective cleanup supports eco-friendly protection. So, mas nakakatulong ito para mas maalagaan natin yung ating environment para sa future. And for that, for overall of the applications of nanotechnology, the future is small, nanotech makes the impossible possible. Next reporter po.
Ngayon naman po is dadako po tayo sa ethical and societal implications of nanotechnology. To start po is, even though nanotechnology po brings a lot of innovation and advancement, hindi pa rin po natin pwedeng i-ignore yung possible concerns po that came with it. Since this technology po works at the atomic and molecular level, sobrang powerful po ng impact nito. Pwede pong positive pero may risk pa din po. So, unahin na po natin ang ethical implications. First one po is the equitable access to nanotechnology benefits. It is a major challenge in developing countries. So, One major issue po is the equitable access to nanotechnology benefits. Kasi po, hindi po lahat ng countries is may equal resources po or funding to develop and use advanced technologies. Usually po, developed countries ang mas mabilis pong makaka-benefit from improved medical treatments, better materials, or advanced energy systems. Meanwhile po, developing countries might struggle po to access these innovations. So, ethically po, this raises a question of fairness. That's why po, equal access becomes a moral responsibility. Next one naman po is the privacy and security concerns in nanosensors and nanodevices. So, this is another ethical concern po. Since these devices po are extremely small but very advanced, they can monitor environmental conditions, detect diseases, or even collect biological data from the human body. While this is helpful po, it also creates risk. And then po papasok yung tanong na what if the data collected is misused, hacked, or accessed without permissions? So, the next one po is the nanotechnology must be responsible, inclusive, and sustainable. Responsible po means making sure it is safe through proper research and testing. Inclusive po means considering different communities and not just big companies or wealthy nations. Sustainable po means thinking about long-term environmental effects like possible toxicity of nanoparticles. And then, next po is the protection of nanosensor data to prevent misuse and safeguard people's privacy. So, protecting the data gathered po by nanosensors is very important po to prevent misuse and to safeguard people's privacy. Without proper laws and regulation po, there is a possibility po of surveillance or data abuse. Ngayon naman po is dadako po tayo sa societal implications. First one po is potential to completely transform sectors of the economy like manufacturing, electronics, and healthcare. For example po, it can create stronger and lighter materials, faster gadgets, and more targeted treatments in medicine. Because of this po, it can help boost economic growth and innovation. Although nanotechnology po can provide more employment opportunities, it can also po cause current jobs to become obsolete. Dito na po papasok yung issue of job creation versus job displacement. While nanotechnology po can create new jobs in research and high-tech industries, it can also make some traditional jobs obsolete. Automation po and advanced production systems might replace certain types of labor. That's why po, society needs to prepare workers through proper education and training so they can adapt to these changes. And the last one po is nanotechnology presents vast opportunities for advancement and creativity across multiple domains. It has the potential po to improve healthcare, energy efficiency, environmental protection, and industrial production. But at the same time po, we need to balance innovation with ethical responsibility and social awareness. Yun lang po. Thank you po.
So now let's proceed naman po on the regulation of nanotechnology. So we all know naman po and na-discuss na rin kanina na ang nanotechnology po is the science of manipulating materials at the nanoscale. Na because of their small size nga po, nanomaterials behave differently compared to normal materials. So bakit nga ba kailangan natin na ng tamang regulation po for nanotechnology? So first po is the rapid growth and wide applications. So dahil mabilis nga po yung development nitong nanotechnology ngayon, ginagamit na po ito sa iba't ibang industries like electronics, medicine, sa agriculture, and even for environmental protection po. And sa pagbilis po ng pag-expand dito, kinakailangan po talaga na may proper guidelines para hindi po ito misuse or magdulot ng unintended harm. Second po is it is used in medicine, food, cosmetics, and sa environment. Sa medicine po, may mga nanoparticles na ginagamit for drug delivery, for targeted drug delivery. Ibig sabihin po, sa paggamit po ng nanotechnology, mas nagiging precise po yung pag-deliver ng gamot sa affected area, like sa cancer cells po. Also sa food industry po, may nanomaterials na ginagamit for food packaging para mas tumagal po yung shelf life ng food. And also sa cosmetics naman, halimbawa is yung sa sunscreen, sinabi na rin kanina na yung sunscreens po para mas mabilis siyang ma-absorb sa skin natin or mas matagal yung effectiveness ng UV rays, ginagamitan din po ito ng mga nanoparticles like zinc oxide or titanium dioxide po. Environment naman, ginagamit din po ito for water purification and pollution control. So makikita natin na beneficial po talaga itong nanotechnology. Kaso nga lang, dahil nga po itong mga nanoparticles is sobrang liit lang and may powerful effects din po ito sa ating katawan and environment, yung kinakailangan po talaga nito ng regulation o tamang batas at guidelines para masigurado po natin na ligtas at responsable po yung paggamit dito. Kasi nga, kaya po nilang pumasok sa cells ng katawan natin and posible po silang ma-inhale, ma-ingest, or ma-absorb through the skin. So, ayan, through regulation po, using it have safety standards, testing requirements, and proper labeling po. Tinutulungan po tayo nito na masigurado na yung mga products na may nanomaterials po is safe gamitin bago po ito ma-release sa market. Pero hindi naman po sa pinipigilan nito yung innovation, but instead, gabay, itong regulation po is gabay po para mas maging safe and sustainable po yung development. Next slide po. So, how different countries regulate it? So, in the United States po, instead of creating a completely new law just for nanotechnology, they use existing laws and apply them to nanoproducts. Example po is the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. This law po checks if nanomaterials harm air, water, or soils. Example po is mga nanopesticides na ginagamit for farming. EPA po evaluates environmental impact nitong mga nanopesticides na ito bago gamitin po sa ating mga farm. The second one po is the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, that it ensures po na ingredients in food, medicine, or cosmetics if safe po ito bago gamitin nating mga tao. Pangatlo po is the OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, that it protects workers po in factories or laboratories who are being exposed po sa mga nanomaterials araw-araw. In the European Union naman po, they have similar agencies katulad po sa US, iba lang po yung tawag sa kanila. First one po is the EFA, which is the European Food Safety Authority, na chinecheck po nito yung mga ingredients sa mga nanofood. Sunod po is the EMA, which is the European Medicines Agencies, na yung mga nanomedicine naman po yung ini-evaluate nito. And then the European Chemical Agencies, which the ECA, na nagmamonitor po ng mga chemical substances including the nanomaterials po. Ayan. Next slide. Next slide po. So for my last topic po, I will discuss the benefits and risk of nanotechnology. So unahin po natin yung mga benefits nito. Una po, isa po sa mga major benefits po nitong nanotechnology is the targeted cancer treatment. Nasa pamamagitan po ng nanotechnology nga po, pwedeng ma-deliver ang medicine directly na lang po sa cancer cells using nanoparticles. Unlike po sa mga traditional chemotherapy na yung buong katawan po yung naapektuhan kay patient. So, dito po mas focus and mas less po yung damage nito sa mga healthy cells. Next po is the water purification. Ang mga nanofilters po na ginagamit is kaya po niyang mag-remove ng bacteria at heavy metal sa tubig, and malaking tulong po ito lalo na sa mga lugar na may water scarcity problems. And also, nanotechnology po helps in creating stronger and lighter materials na useful po for construction, transportation, and sa mga electronics po. And bukod pa po doon is napapabuti rin po nito yung mga renewable energy. Mas nagiging efficient po yung mga solar panels at batteries, and ayun, kaya po mas nagiging sustainable ang mga energy resources po natin. However, may risk din po ang paggamit nitong mga nanotechnology. Una po is, syempre hindi pa po fully known ang long-term effects nito sa katawan and sa environment. And also may risk din po ito sa mga environmental accumulation, meaning pwede pong mag-build up ang nanoparticles sa soil, tubig o kahit sa animals na maaaring makasama po sa ating ecosystem. Another concern po is ethical misuse. Pwede po itong gamitin sa maling paraan. For example po, may possible privacy issues dahil ang nanosensors pwede po siyang gamitin for secret monitoring without consent. And lastly, there is inequality po na pwedeng mangyari na baka maging sobrang mahal po itong mga nanomedicine at maging accessible lang po sa mga mayaman or rich countries. Kaya naman po, sobrang halaga talaga na may proper research and strong regulations po para masigurong safe and responsible po ang paggamit ng nanotechnology in the long run. So, that's all po. Thank you.
So, ngayon naman po is i-discuss ko na po yung pinaka-summary po nito. So, for our summary po, ang nanotechnology po ay tumutukoy po sa manipulation ng matter at the atomic and molecular scale. Ibig sabihin po, sobrang liit nga po nito since yung mga atoms and molecules na po yung mismong nagmamanipulate po para makagawa po ng bagong materials or technologies. And marami nga po itong applications. Ginagamit po ito sa medicine tulad po ng targeted drug delivery. Sa electronics po is for smaller and faster devices. Sa energy and environment po is for cleaner and more efficient systems. Ginagamit na rin po ito sa material science at consumer products na ginagamit po natin sa araw-araw. And because of this po, nanotechnology po promises significant advancements across many fields. Malaki po ang potential nito to improve our healthcare industry and overall quality of life. However po, kailangan pa din po nating pag-isipan ng mabuti because it may lead po to regulatory, ethical, and societal challenges. Halimbawa nga po is magkaroon po ng issues sa safety, privacy, access, at epekto po nito sa trabaho at ekonomiya. That is why po, collaborative efforts are very important. Kailangan pong magtulungan ang mga scientists, policymakers, industries, and society po
to make sure po na ma-maximize po yung mga benefits ng nanotechnology po while minimizing its possible risk. Yun lang po. Sana po may nakuha po kayo sa mga diniscuss po namin. Thank you po.